Hi everyone, this is the old codger. In the last sequence of film number 6, the one before this one, I showed Bev consulting her phone on Geelong railway station. We travelled by train from Warrnambool after riding from Koroit on the rail trail to Port Fairy. I have prepared a map showing our route from Koroit to Geelong. The reason we wanted to go to Geelong was we wanted to see Corio Villa, the first prefabricated building to be erected in Australia. Corio Villa first came to my notice when browsing through a book I have. The book is a register of the National Estate in Australia. Corio Villa is made from cast iron and metal plates and was cast in Edinburgh, Scotland in 1854. It is considered to be a one-off as the factory where it was cast burnt down soon after it was made, destroying the wooden patterns from which it was made. Today the house is worth a pretty penny. In 2013 the villa changed hands. How much it fetched was never disclosed, but the property had been on the market for $5.2 million. After visiting Corio Villa we went in search of a camp. We headed for the showground camping area, but on arrival we were told all sites were occupied. It was hard to believe, as there was so much space and we didn't want a lot of room. No matter, we were told to move on and find an alternative somewhere. We rode on not knowing where we would camp, but finally we came across a caravan park that accepted us. Fortunately the camp had an excellent camp kitchen, and we teamed up with an Indian family, and the man of the party taught us the art of making Indian-style chai. Drinking Indian chai took me back to when I drove overland from Colombo in Sri Lanka to London in 1970. We stopped at many chai houses along the way, and we were not only served chai but entertained by the chai wallahs pouring tea from one cup to another. The making of Indian-style tea is a complicated business. It seems to be men's business only. You don't just chuck the tea leaves in a pot and pour boiling water in. It's more complicated than that. The chai wallah prepares the tea by boiling water and milk with added spices, and last thing they do is add tea leaves and sugar. The brew is then strained into a tea kettle, and the actual pouring of the tea is where the chai wallahs demonstrate their dexterity. The spout of the kettle and the glass from which it is consumed are sometimes a metre apart, and not a drop is spilt. Soon after breakfast we headed for Geelong and ended up at Cunningham Pier. The pier is nothing to write home about. It was once a working pier, evident by the railway lines running its length. Today the pier has been upgraded to accommodate the tourist. There is a restaurant at the end, but it was non-operational at the time we were there. There was one touch I thought interesting, and that was the covered walkway running its length. The walkway was made from curved corrugated iron, and the profile along its edge put me in mind of our house, where I used in one part curved edges on the corrugated iron. I therefore know the effort involved in cutting curves in corrugated iron. Once you start cutting iron with curves, it's difficult to stop. It's easy to apply the curves to other things, such as my corrugated iron garden sculptures. But back to Cunningham Pier. This image shows it when it was a working pier. At the entrance to the pier there were two bollard sculptures, one depicting Captain Bollard bringing live birds to Geelong to stock the nearby botanic gardens, and the other of the captain of the steamship Adina. There are 104 bollards in the Geelong area, and they are made from wooden pylons recovered from the Yarra Street Pier, which was destroyed by fire in the 1980s. A little way from the pier there was a set of pylons I found amusing. It was the local polka brass band. The detail was incredible. From what I understand, the railways often commissioned a polka to be played at the opening of a new railway line, and in this case the Geelong band played the now lost polka. The best I could do as far as a polka was concerned was to the local Cats RFL theme song. Painted at the foot of one of the bandsmen was a rabbit. Maybe the rabbit was included to draw attention to the fact that the first serious attempt to establish rabbits in Australia was on a property not far from Geelong. The first rabbits came to Australia with the first fleet, but a serious attempt to introduce rabbits for shooting sportsmen happened in 1859. The man who imported the rabbits said at the time, "The introduction of a few rabbits could do little harm and might provide a touch of home." Little did he know what mayhem he was about to inflict on the Australian environment. A little further along the waterfront there were more bollard sculptures, and many of the people promenading past them were newcomers to Australia. We know they were newcomers, as there were none speaking English. I thought how fortunate these people must feel. Many would have come from war-torn countries, and just being able to live in such a peaceful country such as Australia is beyond our comprehension. At one point, whilst riding the waterfront, we left the bike path and went up a hill to where we could see a fountain, known as Crane Fountain. The fountain was built in 1929, and for many years it was an eyesore. However, it was restored in later years, and today it stands pristine, with cranes and tortoises being its main feature. After riding the waterfront, we went to the Botanic Gardens, and whilst there we met Jane, a local who told us about the ginkgo tree growing there. Jane had first-hand knowledge of the tree, and she told us the tree, also known as the maiden hair tree, is a native of China, and the one here is the largest in Victoria. It is also possibly the largest in cultivation, standing 20 metres high and 2 metres in diameter. There's a belief that extracts from the ginkgo has medicinal qualities. There is a mass of information on the web relating to its positive and negative qualities, most relating to its aphrodisiac qualities. Another impressive botanical feature of the gardens was the Chilean wine palm, Juba 2 genus. The common name, wine palm, refers to its past use of its saps as a fermented beverage. The genus name is after a Berber king who was not only Julius Caesar's right-hand man, but a botanist as well. Charles Darwin described the palm as a very ugly tree. Nearby the wine palm we found a furphy water cart. The furphy water cart is also known as a rumour cart. We've all heard the term, it's a furphy, meaning an untruth, and its origins are interesting. During World War I, water was delivered to soldiers in the battlefront in a furphy water cart, and the person delivering the water spread rumours as to when the soldiers were going into battle with the enemy. Most of it was speculation as to when the attack would take place. They were nothing but rumours. The cart became known as the rumour cart. Furphy was the name of the man who invented the cart. The hieroglyphics in the centre of the cart end is not Arabic, but it's Pitman's shorthand, and it says, "Water is the gift of God, but beer and whiskey are concoctions of the devil. Come and have a drink of water." I love the motto on the cart, "Good, better, best, never let it rest until your good is better and your better's best." Nearby the cart there was a couple taking advantage of an undercover dance floor. On our way to Geelong station today, from where we caught the train to Ballarat, we rode through Johnstone Park, and the buildings therein were of interest. The art gallery was complex. It was a combination of old and new architecture, but regardless it was impressive. Its main feature was its Ionic style columns. It could be said I'm an arch and column man, and that is why I was so impressed. The Geelong Art Gallery has on show one of the most significant collections of Australian art, including McCubbin's, a bush burial. Purchased in the first year of the gallery's operation, the gallery was not open when we visited, much to our loss. Another piece of impressive architecture in the park was the Hitchcock Bandstand. It was built in 1929 and named after a local notable. Bandstands are follies really, but one useful purpose they serve is to shelter the cyclists if they happen to get caught in a rainstorm. Another use for the budget cyclists is they would make an excellent place to pitch a tent, and if they are looking for a stealth camp within the confines of civilization. Unfortunately, the bandstand today was locked, and I guess it's to deter homeless from sleeping there. From the art gallery complex, we set off for the railway station and caught the train to Ballarat. Today, Ballarat has a population of around 113,000 people and was declared a town in 1852. Ballarat was built on the proceeds of gold, and prospectors and miners came from all over the world to seek their fortune. They came by ship, horse, and some walked to the fields, pushing their worldly belongings in a handcart. As the population grew, prospectors and miners built shelters and houses. Many were canvas, some were made from bark, stripped from the eucalyptus tree. The bark was held in place by small logs. In latter years, corrugated iron, the great ornament of the Australian landscape, came into use. Corrugated iron came to Australia as far back as 1815, and it was a perfect building material. If gold seam ran out, you could pick up your house and move on. However, its main advantage was it could catch rainwater runoff. As I said previously, Ballarat is built on the proceeds of gold, which was discovered there in 1851. The biggest nugget, a solid lump of gold measuring 490 millimetres long by 150 wide and 150 millimetres high. I've done a rough drawing of the nugget and compared it to the size of a common house brick. It's believed the welcome nugget was discovered near Bakery Hill. Michael, our Warm Showers host, took us there and explained the significance of the site. The significance of Bakery Hill relates to the fact that the Eureka stockade was believed to have been erected there or nearby the hill. Disgruntled miners erected the stockade and fought against government soldiers of the colonial government. They were attempting to enforce the payment of unjust gold licences. Around 6 troopers and 22 prospectors were killed in the uprising. The ultimate outcome led to unionism as we know it today. Unionism is strong in Ballarat today, and the signs on a vehicle, a union vehicle, I came across in the main street indicated that don't mess with the workers or they will strike. On the outskirts of Ballarat there is a Eureka centre, and Michael took us there later in the day. But first we went to Bakery Hill, where we met with Julian, who was the caretaker of St Paul's Church.
We've only got a few minutes. This fine gentleman is opening the door for us.
I'll have to stay while you're here because, just because things are being nicked from us.
Sure.
Oh, come on, please open. Thank you.
Oh, really gorgeous.
Yeah. The foundations are like that of, what's that city, Venice? Yeah. So they put down heaps and heaps of pylon, and then put this church on top of it because the other one sunk down a sinkhole,
Right.
a miner's shaft.
Yeah, okay.
Like the whole corner of it.
Yeah.
Because the gold mine must have, and the thing is, then the gold mine did an explosion somewhere over there, and the ground split up the front, and it cracked the whole front of the church and knocked the cross off the top.
Oh, golly. Right. Okay.
These poles are whole trees.
Wow.
They're like all one piece. Yeah, and carved a particular way, and they're whole frigging trees. So the church is structured so that the walls can fall away and the roof will stay up.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, okay.
Because of the trees holding up the... And because they had... That hall that is up for sale is as old as the first church.
Right.
The tower is from the first church. So the tower is on backwards because because
the other way.
Well, the second church went out that way because there used to be a road that ran along there that it fronted.
Right.
But right in the corner near the road was a sinkhole that opened up and swallowed half the church. And 10 years after it was built. Now the roof is from the second church.
Okay.
So the roof, the poles, the Ferguson Uri window is from the second church. They saved some of the glass they did rescue from the second church. This church is a virtual carbon copy size of the second church, built virtually to the same design as the second one. So
Checkered history.
I think this one was completed might have been 64. So there's two churches, and the walls moved, so the actual balcony is basically held up by the poles as well.
Okay.
And so it's incredibly unsafe to go up there.
You had to look to the pinhole and concentrate on that so that you didn't go squiggly and inside. So it was good training for you. So we're going under the freeway now. This is the right bad one. I'll follow mine.
Inside the Eureka Centre, the original Eureka flag was on display. The flag is in a darkened atmosphere, therefore I'm unable to show images of it. The flag for the labour movement in Australia symbolises the spirit of democratic struggle, workers' rights and resistance against oppression, and it all stems from the 1854 Eureka Stockade Rebellion. The flag is seen as a spiritual beginning of the Australian labour movement. It represents collective action for better pay, conditions and the power of the working class. Bev and I recently visited the town of Rubyvale in Queensland. It's a ruby and sapphire mining town, and hanging on people's fences were Eureka flags. The flags on the fences was the way the locals were showing where they stood following the local council's demand for people of the town to clean up their properties. If you ask me, the ramshackle houses surrounded by mining junk and flotsam give the town its character. That's why we go there. Being a bit of a birdo, someone who goes bird spotting, I can't resist telling you what I know about the black swan and the Eurasian coot, the small blackbird. The black swan is endemic to Australia, and the first one I saw was in the Macquarie Marshes in western New South Wales when canoeing there back in the 60s. During our time canoeing in the marshes, I released many swans which became entangled in barbed wire fences when taking off. The marshes are now a national park, so the fences have gone. Explorer George Bass said the call of the black swan was reminiscent of the squeak of an English hotel sign blowing in the wind. The small blackbird is an Eurasian coot, and this bird breeds across much of the old world. Its range has recently expanded to New Zealand, and like its relative, the common moorhen, has adapted well to living in urban environments. It can dive to a depth of 7 metres and can stay underwater for up to 15 seconds when foraging for food. For a comparison, our grandchildren can hold their breath for 11 seconds when playing underwater hockey.